Brother, listen up. There's an invisible conflict happening right now, one that plays out where nobody's watching, not fought with weapons or blades, but raging deep within your soul. The battle that starts when disrespect lands on you, when your text gets left on read and your mind spirals, when one comment destroys your entire week, yet externally you're smiling, nodding, claiming everything's fine. Meanwhile, internally, you're suffocating. This hidden emotional warfare affects nearly every person alive. Here's the harsh reality. The majority surrender. They snap. They combust. They shatter, not from weakness, but from never being taught to hold steady when everything falls apart. You've witnessed them, those rare individuals who step into absolute mayhem without trembling, who maintain perfect composure when everyone around them loses theirs. They're not cold, they're not robotic, they're simply unbreakable. And no, this wasn't their birthright. They forged it through intentional training. That's precisely what we're exploring today. 9 Stoic principles that deliver unshakable emotional mastery. Not artificial toughness, not performance, but authentic, profound inner strength. The variety that never begs for validation, vengeance, or recognition. Start by grasping this truth. We endure more through our imagination than actual reality. Seneca understood this deeply. He was absolutely correct. We catastrophize, we overreact. We mentally rehearse agony before it materializes. To achieve emotional invincibility, we must stop surrendering our imagination as our master. Because reality check. You don't need to absorb everything others hurl toward you. You don't owe a response to every provocation. You don't need to shoulder every emotion simply because it arrives at your doorstep. What you require? Discipline. Not the variety that transforms you into machinery, but the type that grants true liberation. Stoicism doesn't assassinate your emotions, it prevents you from becoming their hostage. It elevates you beyond the chaos. It bestows that extraordinary sacred ability to exist in spaces overflowing with insanity and still select serenity. It demonstrates how to depart without shame, to remain silent and still triumph. Most significantly, it reveals how to conquer the conflict nobody observes. You're not defective for experiencing intensity, but you'll remain imprisoned if you never master feeling less when circumstances demand it. That's what we're dissecting today. These 9 Stoic principles won't transform you into somebody different. They'll expose the version of yourself that's been concealed beneath emotion, uncertainty, and external pressure. If you've ever expressed, "Why can't I release things? Why am I so reactive? I wish I possessed their composure," then you're exactly where you need to be. Absorb every moment. No skipping ahead. Hit that like button if this already resonates deeply. Share your reflections throughout. And if you're committed to becoming your most formidable self, subscribe to Winds of Thought immediately and forward this to somebody who desperately needs it. Drop this declaration in the comments right now. My emotions obey me. I don't obey them. Here we go. Principle 1. Respond as though it's impersonal, even when it stings. Somebody attacks you, deceives you, humiliates you directly, and your body tenses. The automatic impulse? Defend yourself, counterattack, correct their narrative. But Stoicism reveals this wisdom. If external circumstances disturb you, your suffering doesn't originate from the circumstance itself, but from your interpretation of it. Marcus Aurelius taught that. What's his meaning? The thing wounding you often isn't the actual event, but how you absorbed it. Most individuals personalize everything because their identity is brittle. When somebody contradicts them, they feel assaulted. When somebody dislikes them, they feel abandoned. When somebody questions their work, they feel inadequate. The Stoic practice here? Disconnect your ego from the situation, not because it's comfortable, but because it's essential for tranquility. When somebody erupts, it reveals more about their internal state than your value. They're broadcasting their turmoil, not exposing your flaws. Rather than responding emotionally, create distance, pause, examine the situation like a neutral observer. Question yourself. Is this genuinely about me? Could they be projecting their own suffering? Will this hold any significance tomorrow? That gap between provocation and your reply, that's where true freedom exists. Once you quit personalizing attacks, you access a completely new dimension of emotional authority. You transform into someone who absorbs information calmly, communicates deliberately, and doesn't react reflexively. You don't diminish. You don't detonate. You simply observe, and then choose your response with power, not impulse. Absolutely, it challenges you initially, but consistent practice builds unstoppable strength. You're not evading confrontation. You're mastering yourself. Here's something even more profound. When you stop centering everything around yourself, you actually seize control of yourself. That's the Stoic contradiction. Next time somebody attempts dragging you into chaos, into conflict, into emotional turmoil, behave as though it's impersonal, even when it feels deeply personal. Principle 2. Eliminate emotional velocity. Process in slow motion. You experience a surge, rage, panic, pain. It crashes over you instantly, and before your mind processes anything, your words explode. You deliver something cutting. You storm out. You cut someone off. You feel regret 5 minutes afterward. That's emotional velocity at work. It steals your pause. It launches you from stimulus to reaction without granting you space to process. But Stoicism teaches this. Develop the practice of remembering that people make mistakes involuntarily. Marcus Aurelius said that. Decelerate. Not just your language, but your assessment, your anger, your response timing. When somebody says something painful, question this. What if this doesn't require a response immediately? What if I allowed 24 hours before addressing anything? You don't need to engage every emotion the instant it surfaces. Your strength lives in the postponement. Understand this. Our minds operate quickly, but wisdom operates slowly. If you want emotional invincibility, you must eliminate the velocity that destroys your peace. Visualize this scenario. Somebody insults you. You pause. You don't vocalize. You breathe deeply. Depart. Process it thoroughly. By the moment you decide how to engage, you realize you don't even care anymore. That's evolution. Emotion creates false urgency, but urgency opposes peace. What you experience in the initial 10 seconds is frequently just mental noise. But if you wait, if you operate in slow motion, you grant your mind time to filter that noise away. You recognize most situations don't warrant a response. Most conflicts are designed traps. Most emotions are simply temporary weather patterns. This doesn't indicate weakness. It indicates strategic thinking. It means you're selecting your peace above your pride. Because genuine control manifests when you can experience fire rising in your chest and still communicate like you're composed of water. Let them be noisy. Let them cast shadows. Let them hurry. You operate in silence. You communicate after contemplation. You engage with intention, not panic. That's emotional sophistication, and that's what renders you untouchable. Next time your emotions flood in, don't greet them instantly. Allow them to wait. Allow them to settle. Allow them to cool completely. Then you determine your action. On your conditions. Drop this declaration in the comments. I decelerate to maintain control. Principle 3. Eliminate the compulsion to explain yourself. You feel misinterpreted. You feel criticized. And your immediate impulse? Let me clarify myself. Let me validate my perspective. Let me demonstrate I'm not who they assume. But here's the reality. Stoicism doesn't demand you be understood. It demands you find peace with being misinterpreted. Stop wasting time debating what a virtuous person should be. Become one. Marcus Aurelius declared that you don't owe anyone a presentation. Most individuals demanding explanations aren't listening to comprehend you. They're hunting for vulnerability. Even if you deliver the flawless answer, they'll still distort it. That's why the practice of not explaining yourself holds tremendous power. It doesn't indicate you're dodging authenticity. It indicates you've discovered how to let your actions communicate louder than your justifications. You don't explain your transformation. You embody it. You don't rationalize your silence. You safeguard it. You don't defend every decision. You claim it. Because honestly, if somebody genuinely respects you, they don't require an explanation. And if they don't respect you, no explanation will ever satisfy them. Why exhaust your energy attempting to secure approval in a world that monetizes your self-doubt? People will fabricate narratives about you regardless of your words. Let them. Let them misinterpret. Let them speculate. Let them gossip quietly. And you? You continue evolving. You continue healing. You continue advancing. Every moment you invest explaining yourself to somebody who's already formed their judgment is a moment robbed from your tranquility. Speak less. Accomplish more. Let your existence be your answer. That's not pride. That's self-respect. Because when you stop requiring to explain yourself, you finally access freedom. Liberation from seeking permission. Liberation from pursuing approval. Liberation from being emotionally manipulated by others' opinions. You understand who you are. You understand what you represent, and you don't require an audience to feel authentic. Stop diminishing yourself to make others feel comfortable. Stop converting your value into explanations. Your peace doesn't require translation. Principle 4. Construct an internal fortress they cannot penetrate. You enter a space and sense the atmosphere transform. Somebody rolls their eyes. Somebody ridicules your suggestion. You smile outwardly, but something internal fractures. You return home, obsessing about it endlessly. That's because most individuals navigate life emotionally unprotected, completely exposed, raw, vulnerable, in damaging ways. You might not display it, but internally, every glance, every phrase, every rejection impacts too intensely. That's not weakness, that's humanity. But Stoicism offers something powerful, a fortress, not constructed from brick, but constructed from internal boundaries. Marcus Aurelius once documented, "You possess authority over your mind, not external circumstances." Comprehend this and you'll discover strength. Simplified, they can speak whatever they want, but they cannot access your core unless you permit entry. How do you construct this internal fortress? You determine that your peace isn't available for public debate. You quit delegating your self-worth to individuals who don't even respect themselves. You quit seeking emotional validation from individuals who don't care about your well-being. The fortress is constructed in silence. It's constructed every instance you don't respond to provocation. Every instance you let somebody's opinion slide off your spirit like rainwater off a roof. Every instance you declare to yourself, "That doesn't belong to me." You don't need to harden your heart. You simply need to protect your spirit. This isn't about pretending things don't wound. It's about selecting what receives access to your mental territory. Because truth, your mind is sacred territory. Not everyone merits entry. Not everyone merits a reaction. Not everyone merits the key to your emotions. Begin practicing this. When somebody attempts guilt manipulation, visualize your fortress. When somebody gaslights you, sense the fortress. When somebody belittles you, let the fortress absorb it, so you don't need to. The world won't quit testing you. But that doesn't mean you need to keep hemorrhaging. You strengthen every instance you let nonsense pass without absorption. You don't quit caring. You just quit collapsing. The more you construct that fortress within you, the more you transform into somebody who cannot be fractured from external forces. Let them speak. Let them criticize. Let them provoke. You've constructed a fortress now, and it's built from peace, truth, and discipline. Drop this declaration in the comments. I safeguard my peace behind invisible fortresses. Principle 5. Prepare for disrespect like a warrior prepares for combat. Nobody mentions this, but if you want emotional mastery, you must anticipate disrespect, because it's approaching from friends, from colleagues, from internet strangers, even from individuals you've assisted most. When it arrives, you face two pathways. 1. Be shocked, wounded, and reactive. 2. Be prepared, equipped, and calm. Stoicism selects the second pathway. When you awaken each morning, remind yourself, the individuals I encounter today will be arrogant, dishonest, envious, ungrateful. Marcus Aurelius taught that. Why would he express something so pessimistic? Because it's not pessimism, it's emotional preparation. You don't prepare for peace, you prepare for combat. So when peace shatters, you don't shatter with it. You want invincibility? Anticipate the cheap shots. Anticipate being misinterpreted. Anticipate unfair treatment. Then when it manifests, you won't flinch. You'll respond like a warrior who's already prepared for this. Because here's the truth nobody wants acknowledged. Disrespect is woven into life. It's not personal, it's an examination. And those who succeed aren't the loudest, not the most aggressive. They're the calmest. You don't triumph by retaliating, you triumph by remaining unmoved completely. Consider it this way, somebody hurls a stone toward you. You could hurl it back, or you could let it strike your armor and drop to the earth with zero damage. Your armor is forged from self-worth, from knowing your value doesn't diminish simply because somebody else cannot perceive it. You don't need to shout to validate yourself. You don't need to explain that you merit better. You simply stand firm like a warrior in a tempest. Every instant somebody disrespects you, prepare your response. Remain quiet, remain tall, remain centered. You'll notice something remarkable. Individuals who cannot shake you will either begin respecting you or become frustrated and depart. Either outcome, you triumph. And no, it won't always feel equitable, but that's why you're preparing, not for comfort, not for recognition, but for self-mastery. That's what renders you emotionally untouchable. Principle 6. Stop attempting to feel better. Concentrate on thinking better. You feel depleted. You're overwhelmed. Perhaps you're anxious, heartbroken, or exhausted. So, like most individuals, you hunt for relief. A distraction, a motivational video, a social media scroll, a temporary fix that makes you feel better momentarily, but leaves you even emptier afterward. Why? Because you don't need to feel better, you need to think better. Very little is required to create a joyful life. It exists entirely within yourself in your thinking approach. Marcus Aurelius revealed that. Emotions are not adversaries, but depending on emotion to feel acceptable, that's where we stumble. The Stoics grasped this profoundly. Feelings are waves, but thinking is the vessel. You cannot control every emotion that crashes into you, but you can train your thinking to prevent drowning. That means instead of questioning why do I feel this way, question what thought generated this feeling. Perhaps you're angry because you anticipated more from somebody. Perhaps you're sad because you believed something would conclude differently. In both scenarios, the thought generated the suffering. Rather than numbing the emotion, transform the mental filter behind it. The instant you transition from feeling focused to thought-focused, you unlock emotional clarity. You quit pursuing highs. You quit fearing lows. You become the observer of your mind, not the casualty of it. Here's a practical Stoic strategy. When you experience an intense emotion, don't attempt escaping it. Don't attempt fixing it. Sit with it. Identify the thought behind it. Then question, is this thought wise or simply loud? Most of our suffering isn't generated by reality. It's generated by unexamined thoughts we never challenge. You don't need another emotional escape. You need mental discipline. Train yourself to think clearly, and peace will arrive naturally. Train yourself to think slowly, and your anxiety will release its grip. Train yourself to think deeply, and your emotions will begin working for you, not against you. Feelings are signals, but thinking is the steering mechanism. Stop pursuing the next thing that makes you feel better, and start constructing the type of mind that makes you be better. That's Stoicism's essence. Principle 7. Don't assign significance to every feeling. You awaken with anxiety. You feel off, depleted, frustrated, and immediately you begin analyzing it. What's defective with me? Why am I experiencing this? Something terrible must be approaching. But here's the truth nobody mentions. Not every feeling requires significance. Some emotions are simply passing energy, chemical fluctuations, weather in your body. You don't always need to transform it into a narrative. Epictetus stated, "It's not things that disturb us, but our assessments about things." The same applies to our emotions. We suffer more not because we feel excessively, but because we overinterpret what we feel. You might be exhausted, you might be hungry, you might simply be human, but instead, your mind begins assigning significance. I'm not accomplishing enough. Something's defective with me. I'm failing at existence. That's not emotion. That's assessment stacked on emotion. The Stoic practice is straightforward. Observe, but don't assign. You can experience sadness without labeling yourself fractured. You can experience anxiety without presuming catastrophe. You can experience frustration without transforming it into a moral deficiency. Treat your emotions like clouds drifting past. Notice them, accept them, but don't label them. Because when you do, when you quit transforming every feeling into a narrative, you access freedom. You recognize some feelings arrive without justification, and some feelings don't warrant a reaction. You're permitted to feel off and still be acceptable. That's not emotional numbness, that's emotional intelligence. You can declare, "I feel depleted today," and that's acceptable. "I don't understand why I'm experiencing this, but I'll allow it to pass. This doesn't define me." Detach from significance and your emotions lose their power to drag you into chaos. This is how you construct resilience, not by being emotionless, but by refusing to allow every emotion to rewrite your identity. Let your feelings exist, let them move through you. But don't hand them the pen to compose your story. That's your responsibility. You select what defines you. And guess what? A passing feeling is never the complete truth. Drop this declaration in the comments. I experience emotions, but I don't allow them to define me. Principle 8. Expose yourself to silence and discomfort intentionally. Most individuals cannot sit motionless. The instant silence arrives, they grasp for noise, music, phones, social media, anything to occupy the gap. But that gap is precisely where power cultivates. The truth? Silence and discomfort are not adversaries. They are preparation grounds. Epictetus stated difficulties reveal a person's character. So when trouble arrives, consider it as preparation. Consider this: you want to be emotionally unshakable. Then you must deliberately step into territories that most individuals escape from. Here's why. When you practice sitting in silence, you become conscious of your thoughts, your authentic thoughts. not simply the ones concealed under distractions. When you practice confronting discomfort, whether hunger, loneliness or rejection, you construct a tolerance that no motivational quote can provide. Because here's the reality most ignore. Growth doesn't originate from comfort. Peace doesn't originate from escaping suffering. It originates from walking into the fire without fear, not to suffer, but to prepare. Invest 10 minutes daily in silence. No phone, no music, no distractions, simply you and your breath. Your thoughts will scream initially, but over time, they quiet completely, and when they do, you'll hear clarity. Then practice discomfort. Take cold showers. Say no when you want to people please. Sit with cravings instead of satisfying them. Speak truth even when your voice trembles. These small acts rewire your brain. They declare, I don't require comfort to feel secure. They teach you that discomfort won't destroy you, it refines you. Once you're no longer afraid of silence or suffering, you become untouchable, because nobody can manipulate you with loneliness, pressure, or chaos. You've already prepared in it. That's what Stoics practiced. They practiced poverty, rejection, hunger, stillness, not because they were weak, but because they wanted readiness. So practice being uncomfortable intentionally, not for display, not for punishment, but because every instance you endure without panic, you construct the emotional armor others simply pretend possessing. Principle 9. Study every emotional slip like an investigator. You lose control. You declare something from anger. You spiral downward. What do you do afterward? Most individuals simply feel guilty, or worse, ignore it. But emotional mastery isn't about never slipping. It's about learning from every fall. Seneca stated, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a person perfected without trials. So when your emotions dominate, study it. Become an investigator of your own mind. Question, what triggered me? What belief did I hold in that instant? What could I have done differently? Treat each emotional outburst not as failure, but as data. Because every instance you react, you're being shown a part of yourself that still requires attention, still requires growth. Suppose somebody expressed something disrespectful and you exploded. Instead of rationalizing it, study it. Perhaps your emotional trigger wasn't their words. Perhaps it was the belief that you're not respected unless you respond. That's not their fault. That's your internal work. This is the practice that generates authentic change. Every reaction transforms into a lesson. Every mistake transforms into a message. And you must document it. Yes, actually journal it. When you review your emotional patterns like an investigator, you'll observe precisely what environments destabilize you, what individuals trigger you most, what thoughts generate chaos inside your mind. Awareness is power, because what you comprehend, you can transform. And soon, you'll begin catching yourself before the reaction. You'll sense the emotion rising, but instead of becoming it, you'll observe it. You'll declare, oh, this again. And then breathe, pause, redirect. That's how Stoicism functions. It's not about perfection. It's about progress, with precision. You don't become untouchable by ignoring your emotions. You become untouchable by understanding them better than anyone else ever will. Stop criticizing yourself for slipping and begin studying your patterns like your existence depends on it, because your peace does. Drop this declaration in the comments. Every reaction is my roadmap to superior control. In a world that thrives on chaos, rage and noise, calm is a rebellion. It's a quiet revolution that manifests inside you. You've now learned 9 Stoic practices that, if executed daily, won't just protect your peace. They'll transform you not into somebody emotionless, but into somebody powerful. Because you'll quit being pulled by every trigger. You'll quit handing your emotions to individuals who don't merit them. You'll quit collapsing every instance life becomes loud. Instead, you'll move with stillness. You'll respond with wisdom. You'll carry silence like a sword, and individuals will notice. They'll wonder why they cannot provoke you. They'll be unsettled by how peaceful you are. They'll experience something they don't anticipate experiencing from calm individuals. Intimidation. That's the power of internal peace. It doesn't scream. It doesn't plead. It simply exists. You don't need to dominate others. You need to master yourself. And when you do, you'll become the most formidable type of person. The one who feels profoundly, but is governed by reason. The one who walks through storms with dry feet. The one who never reacts, only responds. Let the world pursue attention. You select discipline. Let the world fall apart. You remain whole. This is your new way of existence. Like, comment, and share with somebody who needs this, and subscribe to Winds of Thought.